Chapter 35. Arriving at Primus, Ahsoka Tano. I was awoken by the lurching of the ship beneath me, and instantly felt my eyelids grow heavy again. Anakin had gotten Master Kenobi onto a small ship that the Council had given us, and I had said goodbye to my clanmates and the twins. It was really hard to get away from them because they all, with the exception of Pedro who just seemed uneasy around me, jumped at me and latched onto me with no intention of letting go. Nobody could get them off until Anakin clicked his fingers, and suddenly they were all standing upright 10 feet away from me, looking more flustered than I was. I apologized and said goodbye before boarding the ship with Anakin, and then we took off. After the first few minutes where Anakin typed in the hyperspace coordinates and I was forced to eat something so I wouldn't be hungry when I woke up, which I was, I went to sleep in the back. I looked up at the chrono on the bedside table that Anakin had made for me, and saw that I'd been asleep for just over 7 hours. Plus I was hungry. Like seriously hungry. I got off the bed right then and exited the room. I'd been sleeping on top of the covers instead of over them, because there was more than enough heat in the back, since that was right next to the hyperdrive that had been in use the whole time. I would have wondered why it hadn't blown up, had I not already gotten over the fact that Anakin was a force wielder. I walked into the cockpit to see Anakin asleep in the pilot's seat with a pillow behind his head. There was no one flying the ship, and even though we were in hyperspace, I knew that the ship had lurched. Because we were just about to come out of hyperspace. I headed over to stand beside his seat and was fully prepared to shout him awake when he beat me to the punch. Not a good idea, Snips, Anakin said with his eyes still closed. I could have killed you if you'd surprised me, which is impossible since I can always sense what's around me, but you get the idea. We're about to come out of hyperspace, aren't we? I asked and deliberately ignored his statement. Yes, Anakin replied, but he still did not open his eyes. And the reason you know that is because your force sensitivity is picking up and slowly turning you into a force wielder. But I felt the ship lurch. I protested. No, you thought you felt the ship lurch. Nothing really happened and the force was telling you that we are just about to come out of hyperspace, so it made you think that the ship was lurching. That's really confusing. I know, you'll get the hang of it in the end. He then opened his eyes and sat up straight in his seat. Sit down, Snips. We're coming up on Primus in 10 seconds. Primus? I frowned. Like the first day of the week in the Outer Rim. No, Anakin corrected me. Like the name of the Force Wielder planet that was made the first day of the week in the Outer Rim after the Force Wielders had vacated the galaxy. I nodded once, slowly. Okay, I think I understand that part. I said, though I was slightly uncertain about it myself. I sat down in the copilot's chair and waited. Anakin let out a relieved sigh 2 minutes later. Thank Force, he said. Home. I was confused by what he meant until we really did come out of hyperspace and my jaw dropped. You know, I have to have imagined what this force wielder planet would look like 1,000 times, but I never imagined that it would look like this. Now, I've only ever been to 2 planets that I can remember. Coruscant and Naboo. One was covered in a gigantic city that had no end, and the other was covered in lakes and forests with little towns and cities dotted around everywhere, so that people could live their lives. It's basically 2 opposite ends of the spectrum in the planet encyclopedia, but now there was a whole new spectrum for me to consider. Primus, the force wielder planet, was like what a Jedi would imagine heaven to be in the netherworld. Its sun was large and provided enough warmth to make the inside of the ship feel warm. And by warm I mean the comfortable kind of warm and not the boiling kind of warm that many space pilots complained about. I knew that something had to have been done to it because as far as I knew stars didn't turn from yellow to red and orange to green and back again. I'm being serious. It slowly turned different colors as the only planet in the solar system turned on its axis. I was able to make out a pattern with the different colored lights that it gave off. When a certain side of the planet faced the sun, then it was yellow, and as the planet turned it grew into different colors. For instance, right now it was changing from yellow to red. The planet itself looked awesome. There was this white glow around it that suggested the atmosphere was one of the healthiest ones in the universe, and I didn't doubt that for a second. There were large patches of water dotted around along with green areas of the wilderness, but there was more than that. I could see a large desert area just below the equator and several silver patches that suggested there were entire cities made of metal down there just like the ones on Coruscant. There was a section of water on the planet that was changing colors from blue to dark green, and every color in between. One spot on the planet caught the sun at the exact right angle and started to shine. Like a torch being held up close to your face. There were some spots that just glowed certain colors, and an entire cloud made of every color you could imagine was hanging over a place in the north. There were ice caps at both of the poles, but they looked different to the ones I'd seen before. They looked healthy and as white as paper even from space, and if you looked close enough you could see colors flashing down there. It was completely amazing and my mouth felt sore from how white it was hanging open. How does it look, Snips? Anakin asked me, sounding amused. It looks I was stuttering now, and Anakin started to laugh. Do you want me to tell you about some of the places that are down there? He questioned and I nodded my head eagerly. Well then, you see that multicolored cloud down there? That's the domain of the potion makers. You name it, they make it. That's why there are so many colors, because of the fumes they give off. I'll take you there once Obi-Wan wakes up. That green sea area is where all of the underwater cities are located, and that spot there that shines once the sun hits it is called the Sun City. It's the capital of the planet and where we're going to take Obi-Wan so my friends down there can heal him. Who runs the planet? I asked curiously. The Force wielders must have a leader, right? Anakin laughed again. Yeah, that leader would be me, Snips. I'm the chosen one, remember? He reminded me. But I could never lead all of these people. You know that. I asked the Prime Minister to keep things the way they were and to just let things happen in the way they wanted. I only get called in for dangerous missions such as experiments gone wrong and rogue Force wielders who need help finding their way. They're not like Starkiller, are they? I couldn't help but ask. No, definitely not like Starkiller. They're 1,000 times better and everyone is friendly. No crime since you can't steal from a Force wielder and have them not notice. No violence. No nothing. It's a perfect society for any Force sensitive if you know where to look. I nodded quickly in agreement and kept looking at the planet. Every time I would find something new. A spiraling cloud hovering over a large ocean area. A city made of solid gold that I could see now that the ship had moved closer. A lake area made of crystal. Everything was incredible to look at, and something that I would never have dreamed could exist until now. Then I got a sudden thought in my head. Anakin, where do you live? I asked. Because I don't exactly have anywhere to go down there. Relax, Snips. You can live with me, and Obi-Wan will probably end up living with me too. Anakin assured me. You see that asteroid right there? He pointed to a round asteroid that was circling the sun and was just a little distance in front of Primus. It might have passed for a moon if it wasn't too small and not circling a planet. That's where I live. I was even more shocked than before. Force wielders live on asteroids. No, Anakin said. Just me. A perk of being the chosen one means I can do whatever I want, and nobody complains so long as I remain in the light and don't hurt anybody. It's got air, a magnetic field and an ozone layer that holds in all the oxygen and gases that you need to live so you don't have to worry. Along with some grass, an area that you and your friends can hang out in once you find someone to really awesome pool. Pool? I repeated. I never thought I'd actually see a pool on an asteroid. I bet you never thought you'd see a city made of lightsaber crystal either. He commented. My eyes went wide. They have a city made out of lightsaber crystals. Oh yeah, Anakin confirmed. I'll get you an atlas once we land. You may have noticed there aren't any other ships around, and that's because there's no point in having them. Force wielders can just nether travel everywhere. What's nether travel? Traveling through the nether world, Anakin explained. Everyone can do it if you train them and you can take anyone with you. It doesn't work for planet-to-planet travel, but there aren't any other planets you would want to go to and none in this solar system. I'm powerful enough to nether travel to my home in my sleep, so you shouldn't have any problems doing it. Me? I asked. I don't know, nether travel sounds hard. It's easy, Snips. You just have to immerse yourself in the netherworld of the Force and think of where you want to be and bingo. There you are. That doesn't sound any easier. I admitted. And wouldn't it be a little weird if a person just, vanished into thin air? Though, it doesn't work like that, Anakin said. Everyone disappears in their own special way. Mine is very flashy since I'm the son of the Force, and all but yours should be less noticeable. Like having a light appear in your chest, and then it spreads out across your body, and as it does so you disappear. Okay, I didn't think nether travel sounded so bad anymore. It sounded like fun to me. There was a beeping noise on the controls, and when Anakin pressed it, I heard a loud and playful voice on the other end. Where in Force's name have you been, Ani? A man asked. I mean, I know that you're the chosen one, and you can just up and leave whenever you want, but come on, man. Do you have any idea how worried I've been? Well, not so much me, but Sadie won't let me get through the day without shouting at me for letting you leave. Anakin laughed. I'm fine, D. Just got a little sidetracked in my home galaxy. So that's where the almighty chosen one went to, the man on the other end, Anakin had called him D, said sarcastically. What have you been up to, bro? Your mentor won't tell me a Force damn thing. Well, you remember the thing about the first Amidium Semino, right? Of course I do, what am I, chopped fish? Yeah, well, I might have gone out and found her. Anakin smirked at me and I glared back. But don't overreact. Me? Overreact? No, I'm not going to overreact, I'm just going to for Force's sake, Anakin. D, will you relax? Please. No? I will not relax. Do you have any idea how long I spent looking for you? Weeks. Months. And the whole time you were out looking for this historic guy who made history for the Force wielders and... Crap. The man on the other end let out a long sigh. Okay, I'm calm. I'm calm. Why can I sense more than your Force presence on your ship? Oh, it's just Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, Anakin answered. You mean the old dude that helped you get into the Jedi Order? Wicked, man. Hey, who's Ahsoka? The first medium semi-no, idiot. She's almost 11 3/4, so you had better have a shot ready when we land. 11 3/4. Criffing hell. This is a close call you're making here, Ani. But so long as you bring back an important figure in history, I doubt anybody's going to care. You don't have a bad back, do you? Because Sadie's kids are waiting for you down here, and I doubt Simon's gonna be gentle when he tackles you. I'm fine, D. Anakin assured him. Now can you get off the line? I have to land the ship, and the sun's already hit Main Street. Alright, I'll get off the line. Warn your friend, though. You know how we Force wielders are when the Chosen One returns home after a long absence. We're talking parties and celebrations and serious, time-taking activities here. Yeah, I know. But can you get a healer for me, please? Obi-Wan's got a deadly fluid in his bloodstream, and I never bothered to learn how to get it out. I bet you will now, though. Just get a healer. Anakin said, and the connection was cut. Well, that was fun. Who was that? I asked. Oh, that was just a childhood friend and all that. I frowned. How can his name be D? I don't get it. Snips, his real name is Diablo Detroit Ditto. We just call him D because it's easier. But what did he mean by celebrations and stuff? The grin made its way onto Anakin's face. Well, Snips, imagine the Jedi Order's Grandmaster goes missing. When he comes back they have a big celebration to celebrate his safe return, yeah. Well, imagine that. But run by Force wielders. So you like their Grandmaster? If you want to put it bluntly, yes. I am the king, he said sarcastically with a smirk. I just wish I'd had this much influence when I was younger. I could have gotten some little snots to roll around in mud for. Insulting my best mates. I wasn't particularly sure if I wanted to know how violent Anakin's fights would have been when he was younger, so I didn't ask any questions. Anakin piloted the ship down to the planet, and I was still looking around at all of the new things I could see, and once we broke the atmosphere I knew this was the best place in the universe. He had not been kidding about the celebration thing, as there were tons of people crowded in the streets yelling and clapping and whooping as Anakin landed the ship, but since it was on a platform beside the biggest building they couldn't come up to talk to us, and I couldn't see them. I felt a little less nervous now that I didn't have to see any of the super powerful Force wielders who were going to ask who I was once they saw me with Anakin. Anakin stood up and gestured for me to follow him with a big smile on his face. I could tell that he was happier than he'd ever been because he was returning home for the first time in months. He did a quick check over on Master Kenobi before leading me towards the landing ramp, which had already activated before we'd gotten there, and I was really nervous about getting off the ship. There were some very important Force wielders waiting for Anakin out there, and I really didn't want to have to be out in the open whilst then were there. I wasn't doing too good a job of hiding my emotions, not that I ever could. So Anakin called me out on it a nanosecond later. You nervous, Snips? He asked. A little, I admitted. More than a little, he smirked at me. Just stay on the ship and I'll go out and meet them, okay? I mean, even I didn't have to meet the Prime Minister on my first visit, and I'm the chosen one. Stay here. And calm your nerves for a bit, okay? Okay? I watched him walk down the landing ramp with the biggest smile on his face that was of pure happiness, and I even saw him get slammed into by two kids who were about my age. They were both boys and one had white hair whilst the other had light brown hair. From what I heard Anakin say, I was guessing that the one with light brown hair was called Simon, and the other one was named Jack. I stayed in the ship with only Master Kenobi's Force presence to remind me that there was something familiar nearby, when there were millions of strong Force presences around me from the Force wielders who lived on the planet. I was beginning to wonder if Anakin was going to come back when he stuck his head around the corner. Hey Snips, you coming or not? He asked. I frowned. What about Master Kenobi? The healers are coming inside to get him, and I figured that you'd prefer to stay indoors with me rather than outside where everyone can see you or in a ship with some Force wielders you've never met before, Anakin said. Let's go. I wasn't exactly very enthusiastic, but I followed him. That is the one sentence to sum up what I did. I followed him out the ship and down the ramp. There was no one about, and that made me feel a little better about walking around out in the open. Now what really caught my attention when I followed Anakin was the place where we were going. It was the size of the Jedi temple. Easily. There were entire sections made of glass, crystals that created little multicolored rainbows in the sky, and a few ventilation grates that didn't even look like ventilation grates unless you looked really close. That was because there were blocks in front of them decorated with moving images, and random bursts of snow or rain would come out of them every now and again. It certainly took my mind off of being nervous for a while. As we walked into the building through some sliding glass doors, I didn't notice the Force wielders moving into the ship to heal Master Kenobi. They really were as skilled as Anakin had said they were. We walked through corridors that seemed normal, but out of the windows I could see the sky, and that was not normal in my opinion. It was yellow. Yellow. I have never heard of a single planet that has a yellow sky, and I could have sworn it was fading to this lightish green color. Anakin had this spring in his step, and I had to admit that I had never seen him this happy. Not once on Coruscant did I see him look as happy as he did now. It was rather strange to think that simply being on a planet could have this effect on him. Then we turned a corner and walked into a room where there were 3 adults and 2 kids. The 2 who had tried to tackle down Anakin when he walked down the landing ramp were sat on the couch, playing on what I knew were gaming devices since their eyes were glued to the screens. Then there were the 3 adults in the room. 2 males and 1 female, so I guess the female one was named Sadie. Sat next to her was a guy whose face lit up as Anakin came back in the room, and he had a cocky smirk plastered to his face that said this was the D person who had been talking to him on the ship. I had no idea who the other one was, but he wore a long white robe and had long white hair and an even longer white beard. Anakin, the man whose name I didn't know, greeted with a smile, and then he saw me. And you must be Ahsoka Tano, the first Amidium Semino to be born on Primus. You know, I hadn't actually known that when Anakin brought me here, so now I was fairly surprised. This made me wonder what else Anakin hadn't told me, but I really couldn't be bothered to get mad. Anakin always managed to beat me in our arguments, and the fact that he could hold his own against Master Kenobi and had taken on the entire Jedi Council in an argument was proof enough that he was not to be messed with. Hello, I said, since it was the first thing I could think of. Now, how has life been like with Anakin? He asked. I didn't even need to think for that one. Interesting. The guy known as D burst out laughing and didn't stop even when Sadie smacked him on the arm. Oh, come on, you have to give me this one. Interesting. He almost got us vaporized and turned into fish. When we were 9. Oh, Anakin, my friend, you've lost your touch. I hardly think so, Anakin replied. I managed to get a dark force wielder after her, and that tops any of the things I got you into. What? Anyway, D got cut off by the white robe man. My name is Ludferber and I was Anakin's mentor. You do know about what will happen once you turn 11 3/4, don't you? Yes. I answered. Then you know that you must be given an injection. Yes. Wonderful, he smiled brightly and clapped his hands together. We can all get out of here before the Prime Minister returns. Anakin, you do know what to do, don't you? Yes, Ludferber, I know. Anakin replied, and the next second he was holding a seriously small syringe in his hand. It was tiny compared to the ones I'd seen. Snips, it won't hurt at all. Mostly because you've had ones twice the size of this, but you know what I mean. I didn't even bother looking at it and instead looked at the floor. It took a second. A second. I have had injections that lasted up to 20 seconds, and all along it's only supposed to take 1. I wasn't very happy about that, but Anakin had been right. It didn't hurt. Although I did feel a little bit odd and remembered what Anakin had said about the injection. It mixed with the particles a person had from their Force wielder side and made them immortal. You know what that meant. I was immortal now. Or at least I was going to be once the injection took effect. That was a scary thought. Me being immortal felt a little strange considering I had lived all of my life up until that point as immortal. All done, Anakin said, and the syringe disappeared from his hand through his use of the Force. We should probably get you settled in before doing anything else, Ahsoka. And if Obi-Wan's not awake too. Know all the decisions, then he's going to kill me. By the way, nether travel only makes you feel ill for the first few times you try it. I frowned, knowing that something was up. But I can't nether travel. No, but I can. He touched my shoulder, and then we weren't in the room where everyone else was sat anymore. We were on an asteroid floating in space with my stomach groaning loudly in protest.